Welcome back to another episode of the Ultras on TS. As always, I'm Josh Piercy, and today I'm joined by Kurt Black and Michael Benora. Gentlemen, plenty to get into today, including a couple of derby matches, one in Manchester, one in France, one in Spain. We start in Manchester, a draw between City and United. And then after the game, we've seen a little bit of something that I know Roy Keane certainly doesn't like. Harry Maguire and John Stones hugging. Of course, Pep Guardiola going over and talking to Michael Carrick. Gentlemen, after what was a pretty boring game, Michael, I mean, hugging after, is this the death of the derby?
I don't believe it's a death of the derby. It's unacceptable in my opinion. That's the rivals. That's the guys you want to play against. That's a matchup on the calendar you circle. That's what I look forward to, if I was a player. But I believe the absence of fans really affects the players' attitudes going into the match because there's a different atmosphere when the fans are chanting or giving, let's say, John Stones a finger after a corner kick or a great tackle, something along the lines of that. That really fuels the fire. And I believe without the fans, then the fire is just not the same technically.
Well, Kurt, we're seeing fans come back in London and other parts of England right now, but not yet in Manchester. Do you agree with Michael? Do you think had fans been there, they wouldn't be hugging after the game, or do you think this is just a product of how we set these players up these days?
Well, I don't think Michael's completely off base. Of course, the fans are going to play some aspect in the atmosphere at the grounds. Absolutely. I just think this is just another example of where sports has been going for quite a few years. You can look at almost every sport and you see this. It's shocking. And then you'll hear all the old players get all upset about it because they're like, oh, in my day, we would never have done that. We were combatants. We were rivals. I just feel all these guys nowadays, there's these rivalries between the players doesn't really exist unless there's some animosity and maybe some bad blood in the past. I think these guys train with each other year round. They know each other on national teams, especially in football where they're always on national teams together. And I think they just build relationships with these guys that even if they're on rivals, it doesn't show up. And honestly, I'm not a huge fan of it. I love that animosity. I think it adds so much to the game, and it would have added some life to, as you said, was a lifeless derby.
Yeah, Michael, I mean, if you're Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, if you're Pep Guardiola, if you see the media coming after you for letting your players be so soft, apparently, are you addressing this issue in the locker room, or is this something that is just a product of today's game, like we've been saying?
It's just a product of today's game. And honestly, there's nothing the managers could do. I hate when fans and the media think that managers have like ultimate control over their players. These guys are grown men. They're not coaching a U11 team. These guys have every right to make a decision for themselves, and they did that. And like you said, you saw Stones hugging Maguire. Like Kurt said, that's a product of the national team. And like we've seen, every national team seems to be more united recently. It's just something about it. Just every team seems to be more united, to be honest with you. And I just don't see how they could address this to the media or even in the dressing room. You just got to allow it to be completely honest with you.
And what are the coaches supposed to do? Sorry, Josh, but the story would be so much worse if it came out that a coach had said, all right, we want you to 2-foot that guy. We want you to go and get some dirty play going. That would be such a huge story for the wrong reasons. So yeah, it's all up to the players, and clearly they don't really want any of it.
Yeah, I mean, it is a big product of the team atmosphere that Gareth Southgate has created within that England camp as well, which has proved to be pretty good for him and his team. All right, let's move on to a manager with probably a little bit of a bigger problem on his hands right now. Liverpool went out today, 1-1 draw against Fulham. Disappointing, especially after Tottenham also failed to gather all 3 points this morning, so Liverpool still sitting second in the league. And today's draw was against Fulham, which was the 17th side in the league going into today's fixture. Diego Jota seems to be out for an extended period of time now, as well as Joel Matip. Kurt, these injuries, they just keep piling up for Liverpool. And a draw today against a team that they definitely should have beat. How can Jurgen Klopp deal with this right now?
He's got to rely on a lot of unproven depth, a lot of youth right now. And I think it's really going to be a spectacular year if he can keep Liverpool afloat throughout this, because every week they've lost a big name. And it's been the theme of the season from the get-go for Liverpool. And I think it's going to ultimately lead to him making a decision, whether he wants Liverpool to fight for the title in the league or whether they're going to go for Champions League and Europe glory. Because there's no way that he doesn't have the depth available to him to have two balanced lineups to field in both of those competitions. So it's going to come down to what one he wants. And even then, if these injuries continue to mount, Liverpool's season might be lost.
Now, Michael, of course, injuries is something you expect to see over the course of a season, which is why you go out and you buy those backup players during the summer. Liverpool this season really didn't sign many players over the summer. Diego Jota, probably one of the only players that they did sign. Now he's injured as well. Were they being a little bit cocky in the summer when they didn't go out and they didn't sign anybody, and now they're kind of facing the consequences of that?
You took the words right out of my mouth when you said they were being a little cocky, and I think they were a little cocky. The one signing I look at, and it's one of the only ones they made, like you said, Diego Jota. Is that a necessary signing? Like, he's a great player, but your front three is the most loaded part of your team. I don't think you have to worry about them whatsoever. I think what you need to worry about is your center backs, your defense, the lack of depth back there that you guys have. And I think they could have spent their money way better than $40 million on Diego Jota.
I think Liverpool is an example of a team that was lured into this position because if you look at their history over the last 2 years, they barely dealt with injuries. The main injury was Mohamed Salah getting his shoulder ripped out of its socket in the Champions League final. Other than that, they've been so healthy, consistently healthy. And, I think it was a false sense of security, and they've been caught off guard this season.
And just a reminder, in spite of all that, right now, Jurgen Klopp's still able to keep Liverpool in second place with a 7-4-1 record. That's nothing to shake a stick at. It's pretty good. Let's move on to Spain. We've seen the Madrid Derby over the weekend. Seemed like Atletico really had a chance to kind of take over in Madrid, especially being 4 points ahead of Real before yesterday's match. Of course, Real ran out 2-0 winners over Atletico. Michael, how big of an opportunity is this missed by Atletico?
It was a big miss by Atletico. I personally think Atletico had the better team than Real Madrid, to be honest with you, especially with Joao Felix starting to pick up the pace. But this is a big opportunity, especially over your rivals, and especially in it's such an open league this year. Anyone could win the title realistically in the La Liga right now. And the fact that Atletico not just blew the chance against your rivals to kind of take the lead in the league. It's just a bad chance. And I don't think the score actually represented how the teams played because I think Atletico dominated a majority of that game, to be honest with you. But it's just a big missed opportunity, and they're going to be shaking their heads for a while.
Kurt, do you imagine one of those teams in Madrid is going to win La Liga this season?
They're not making it any easier on either side, because they've been so inconsistent, both teams, all year. Just earlier in the week, both teams looked really good in the Champions League, even Atletico with their win over Leipzig. But like this, as Mikey said, this is their opportunity. I don't think in the last decade has Barcelona and Real Madrid been this weak. And this is a chance for Atletico to really jump on it, and I don't see it. And I'll be honest, I didn't see it last year either. There was some talk last year that maybe Simeone's time in Madrid was coming to an end, that his coaching system didn't fit with what Atletico, at least what their roster is built to do. And I kind of agree with it. If he can't leave at Atletico to at least a La Liga victory this year, then maybe it's time for a new vision down in Madrid.
Well, speaking of coaching changes, of course, yesterday we seen a big change at one of the biggest clubs in the world. Lucien Favre sacked by Borussia Dortmund after a 5-1 loss to Stuttgart yesterday. It hasn't all gone right in Dortmund, but it was seen he was quite a good coach when it came to dealing with these young players in Dortmund, probably why he lasted so long. Michael, did they make the right choice in Dortmund to sack Lucien Favre right now, especially kind of in that early stage of the season?
I think it was the right decision, but I don't think it was the right timing per se. I think Dortmund are in a tough spot, especially that they lack at the striker position without Erling Braut Haaland. With him out, I think it just gave Favre a tough chance to kind of fight for his job because they're playing Thorgan Hazard as striker, who's a quality player, but he's not a striker. He's nothing compared to Erling Haaland, to say the least. So I think it was the right decision, just not the right time to happen. And like in any sport, when you fire a coach, it really brings a mood into a dressing room that no one feels safe, despite the fact that like it's just a coach that's gone, but the players, the mood changes, and I just don't think it was the right timing to make this to fire.
So, Kurt, Dortmund are through to the round of 16 in the Champions League, so they have a little bit of time to shift gears and get a new guy in before the next round. What sort of style of manager do you think Dortmund should hire, and do you have a name in mind?
Well, the name that comes right off the top of my head is Julian Nagelsmann, of course, with Leipzig. Just simply because he has incorporated a style of football that's what Borussia Dortmund's supposed to be. Young, youthful, exciting, fast-paced football. So fascinating to watch, right? You can't take your eyes off it. Unfortunately, with their timing of this firing, most of the good coaches that they'd be interested in have a job. And their teams are doing well, so why in the world would they leave? I don't think Nagelsmann's going to be leaving Leipzig anytime soon unless it's a big team coming for him. So the other option that I have in mind, another Julian Stefan, the head coach for Rennes. He is a very smart young head coach. He's been one of the most fascinating guys in his league at being so adjustable. He's not one of those coaches like Conte who fall into a game plan and they just cannot be ripped out of it, whether it's ego or whether it's just they don't know another game system to go to. He can adapt to what his team offers. And I think that would be really good for a team in Borussia who are probably going to go through a time of flux where they're going to have new players coming in and out of the roster, and he might be the perfect coach to fit that need.
Well, Michael, do you agree with Kurt there? I mean, Dortmund are, they have hired from the inside before, promoted from within. Do you think that they'll go out and get a hot young coach like Kurt says?
I truly believe they will. I think, like Kurt said, Nagelsmann is the best choice for them because that's what Dortmund's supposed to be all about. What Leipzig is, that fast-paced young team and a great team to watch. I always love watching Leipzig because they produce talents throughout the years that have gone on to bigger, better things in some certain scenarios. But I think at the same time, if it's not Nagelsmann, I don't think they should go after a young coach. I think they should go after an experienced coach to kind of maintain the situation until they could hire someone else, like a young coach like Nagelsmann, in the future. I think that's the best possible scenario right now for a team like Dortmund, especially they keep drawing or keep dropping points. It's just not a good situation. So I think they need to hire an experienced coach to kind of maintain the situation.
Well, they definitely have a lot of potential and a lot of young guys who will certainly be superstars in the future if they can be coached by the right guy, of course. Fellas, that's all the time we have for today. As always, please remember to like, share, and subscribe to TS on YouTube as well as Instagram. All the links are down below. And if you like what we were saying today, you can also follow us on our personal accounts. Those links are down below as well. For Kurt Black and Michael Benora, I'm Josh Piercy. We'll see you next Monday on the Ultras on TS.